Hi, welcome back. If you haven't watched part 1 of my Fullmetal Alchemist English dub history video, please do so. It'll help give context to this video. We last left off with Funimation releasing the Premium OVA Collection, a DVD containing shorts of the Fullmetal Alchemist anime. One question lingering on everyone's minds was if Funimation would dub the sequel series to Fullmetal Alchemist announced months earlier. In August of 2008, Bones announced they were working on a brand new anime, Fullmetal Alchemist 2. It was unclear what this meant. Was it a sequel to the original, or was this entirely new? It didn't take long for fans to have an answer. This new anime is a proper adaptation of the manga. This quickly became one of the most hotly anticipated anime series of 2009. In Japanese, the series is named Hagane no Renkin Jutsushi, Fullmetal Alchemist. If one were to use the English name, it would be Fullmetal Alchemist, Fullmetal Alchemist. Aniplex rechristened the anime for the English version, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Being adapted from Arakawa's original work, there are vast differences between Bones' first anime series and this new one, and debates carry on to this day on which one is better. But that's beyond the scope of this video, and there are dozens and dozens and dozens of videos and threads that discuss this debate at much greater lengths. We're here to talk about the dubbing history of FMA, not discuss which is better. But to give a brief primer, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood features a grander world to the Fullmetal Alchemist universe, a broader cast of characters, and a faster-paced, action-packed story. Brotherhood takes viewers by the hand, starts running, and doesn't let up. But if you've made it this far into the video, even with the spoiler warning at the start, I'm likely preaching to the choir. Brotherhood even had more episodes for this massive story, a whopping 64 to be exact. That's 13 more than the first anime. Before we even talk about the dub, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is one of the first anime series to be simulcast. Within a mere 4 days of releasing in Japan, a subtitled version would be available to stream on Funimation.com. We take for granted nowadays how we get anime, usually, the same day as Japan, but back then, getting it within a few days was a big deal. Madman in Australia would be streaming it on their website, and Animax Asia, a TV channel that specializes in anime, also announced they would be airing the anime subtitled within 6 days of episodes broadcasting in Japan. And around the release of the anime, Brotherhood had a screening at Supernova Brisbane in Australia, hosted by Vic Mignogna. So let's look at the dub of Brotherhood. Oh, did you think I meant Funimation? No, there's one that came before that.
English Dub History. English Dub History.
As late as October of 2009, Animax Asia began to air an English dub of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, dubbed in Hong Kong by SDI Media. This dub for years was shrouded in mystery, relegated to second-hand accounts by forum users. But thanks to one incredibly handsome person on Twitter that you should totally follow, by the way, 3 episodes of this dub were found, and some clips were posted for everyone to hear. However, out of respect for the person that gave me, that good-looking person on Twitter, these episodes, they requested not to distribute any of them or include any of the Animax dub's audio in this video. So if you'd like to see this for yourself, check the description for threads. But I can discuss the details. The clips posted confirm some of the claims floating around, most notably Ed being voiced by a female like in Japanese and Alex Louise Armstrong having a goofy German accent. The casts for most Hong Kong dubs are limited, so virtually everyone in this dub plays multiple characters, and given the lack of info, this list is incomplete. Edward Elric is voiced by Muriel Hoffman. Hoffman is also the voice of Izumi Curtis, Winry Rockbell, Riza Hawkeye, and Lust, who has a British accent just like what Caitlin Glass did in her audition. Hoffman has also seen the American dub, which we will get to soon, and thinks it's great. Alphonse Elric is played by Lily Troncail. She also voices Rosé, Pinako, Panina, Lanfan, and Mei Chang. Unlike Funimation's dub, which uses a metal mixing bowl to give Al that echoey metallic sound, the Hong Kong version uses a digital effect on Troncail's voice. I asked Troncail for her thoughts on Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Here's what she told me. I loved FMA. It was one of my favorite series, and Al really got me in the heart. The biggest help was to be opposite Muriel. She is an incredible talent. She also said Al is up there as one of her favorite roles she's ever done. She once caught Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood on television and was excited to hear it, only to find out it was the US dub. Matthew Leonhardt, aka Matt Bailey, performs Roy Mustang in this dub. Mike Brooks is the German-accented Alex Louise Armstrong in the Hong Kong Brotherhood dub. Catherine Fu is in this dub, but she can't remember who she voices. According to her, this was one of the first projects she was on, but it was for a minor character. Gloria Ansell believes she was in this dub too, but can't remember specifics. This dub was produced over a decade ago, so I don't expect actors to remember every detail, but she does remember being in it. I can confirm Michael Pizzuto, who was my usual go-to source on Hong Kong dub info, is not in this dub. Reportedly, Envy is voiced by a man, but it's not confirmed which actor. We'll talk a bit more about Truth later, the mysterious entity that resides at the Gate of Truth. In the original, Truth has the same voice actor as the one who summoned it, but with a deeper voice and a filter layered on top of it. This is also true in this dub, as it's two voices combined, one male, one female. I'm willing to say this is Muriel Hoffman as Ed's voice of Truth, but I'm not sure. And the dub was directed by Jack Murphy, with many directorial roles being on screen now. Because this dub is completely unrelated to the version by Funimation, terminology and names are occasionally different. Translation and pronunciation differences can be found in the likes of Sho Tucker being Shu Tucker, different from both Funimation and the Japanese, Ronfon instead of Lonfon, like we'll see soon, and Mei Chan instead of Mei Chang. Pronunciations are sometimes inconsistent in the dub. In episode 3, the cult residing in the town of Lior is referred to as both the Church of Leto and Leto. As one final note, and a rather important one, Alphonse does not refer to Edward as brother. This was a note I made when talking about Funimation's FMA 2003 dub, and they quickly corrected that come episode 2 or so. But according to episodes available and accounts from those who have seen it, Al refers to Ed by name throughout the series. The dub aired for the entire series run, although only 3 episodes are recovered. Hopefully one day more of this dub is unearthed. But until then, let's return to America.
English Dub History. English Dub History.
Back to the company that dubbed the original anime, there were 2 reactions at the studio once news broke of a follow-up to Fullmetal Alchemist. Oh boy, and oh no. Oh boy, because there's more Fullmetal Alchemist content, and oh no, because the first series is a tough act to follow. There were a lot of questions about what the show would even be like. What is the art going to look like? What is the story going to be like? What if this one is, dare anyone say, bad? Fullmetal Alchemist's positive reviews were enough to fuel the excitement, so for Funimation, it wasn't so much a matter of building up the hype, it was a matter of delivering on the hype. Most of the staff that worked on the first anime were not aware of what happens in the manga, despite being asked constantly by fans at cons. The only person on the first team that perused the manga was voice director Mike McFarland. In Japanese, the voice cast was almost entirely replaced, save for Romy Park as Ed, Rie Kugimiya as Al, and a handful of others. The dub, on the other hand, sought to keep as many actors as possible from the 2003 anime, from Vic Mignogna as Ed all the way down to this Lior shopkeeper being Mark Stoddard. The recording process began in June of 2009, and most of the cast returned. On February 4th, 2010, the first batch of cast members were announced for the dub. Vic Mignogna would return as Ed, Travis Willingham would return as Mustang, Colin Clinkenbeard would return as Hawkeye, the list goes on. If an actor moved out of state, McFarlane did his best to accommodate them to record, sometimes by McFarlane telling them about his direction over email and them sending back their recording. But even so, the team could not bring everyone back. Between the 2003 series and even the OVAs, there were several recasts for important characters. First, let's talk about the actor that hit the magical age of puberty. As established, Aaron Dismuke could not reprise Alphonse. Well, I mean, he could, it would just sound incredibly jarring. Mike McFarland wanted to have an actor that could fall in between Aaron Dismuke and the original Seiyu, Rie Kugimiya, while bringing something unique to the voice, not being a straight emulation. McFarland didn't have a long list of candidates for Al, but picked people he was either familiar with or had worked with before. And the role went to Maxie Whitehead. This was Whitehead's 5th role with Funimation and was performing as Krona in Soul Eater around the same time. When Whitehead auditioned for the role, she heard an out-of-context clip of Aaron Dismuke's version of Al and then asked if she could match the general tone and cadence of that. Whitehead had never seen the first Fullmetal Alchemist, so this clip basically meant nothing other than a quick task for auditioning. She came back in 2 weeks later and Mike McFarland had her record a full episode and that's how she landed the part. McFarland told her to get ready because being Alphonse was going to change everything for her. She had no idea Fullmetal even had as massive a following it did, but she was told to keep this role a secret. Whitehead never went out of her way to listen to any other clips of Dismuke's Alphonse, and she did this on purpose. Actors are like sponges, Whitehead has said in many interviews when asked if she's heard Dismuke's take on Alphonse. She feared hearing his voice would influence her performance subconsciously, but many actors on the cast said it was impressive how similar she sounded to Dismuke sometimes. And what if the effect that made actors sound as if they were trapped in a giant metal suit of armor, the famous mixing bowl? McFarlane kept that exact bowl they used in case one day it would be needed again, and because of that, he didn't wash it, let alone use it, out of fear it may warp the bowl. He didn't want to have a sound different from what they did in the first anime.
I'm sick of watching people die, and I can't just sit back and take it anymore. I won't let anyone else get killed, not when I can protect them.
Adorable little Alicia Hughes, originally voiced by Tierney Titus, is now voiced by Jeremy Lee, an adult. And Titus, by this point, had left voice acting as a whole. Titus has heard Lee as Alicia and says it's good. It works for this adaptation.
Big brother, little brother. The younger means little. You're little.
Mike McFarlane tried his absolute best to bring back people, even the ones living out of state as mentioned. But for some actors, it was more practical to recast them, or they just couldn't reprise their role. J. Michael Tatum returns as Scar in Brotherhood. He reprises the role from the Chibi Rap Party OVA. However, Tatum still needed to re-audition to land the role. Instead of doing a straight vocal imitation, the staff took what Damian Clark already had in the 03 version, and Tatum put his own spin on it. And this isn't the first time Tatum took over for Clark, as he also replaced Clark in Gunslinger Girl as Hillshire. Scar is a different character in Brotherhood. He's visibly older. He takes a different path in this version of the anime. So the folks at Funimation had a little bit more wiggle room as far as the voice. But in Tatum's eyes, Damian Clark will always be the voice of Scar.
Ishvalan names are sacred. Ishvalan people take great pride in speaking their names aloud, as they are gifts from God.
Charles Baker didn't reprise his quick fill-in voice as Hyman's Breda. In fact, the team went an entirely different direction with Breda. Breda was goofier in the 2003 anime, so the dub played off that trait. But in Brotherhood, he's more straight-laced. Jeremy Inman was just the guy for the job, although really he would have worked great for the 2003 series too. Tim Marco is played by the late Jerry Russell, replacing the late Bryce Armstrong as the latter had retired in 2009. Russell did not attempt to replicate Armstrong's voice. He went a different direction with the Doctor.
All right, tell me what you two are doing here. Have you come to take me back? I don't ever want to go back. Anything but that.
And Zara Little no longer plays Little Salim Bradley. You know, the 2 episodes he appeared in. Brittany Karbowski now plays the character, previously being the voice behind young Alphonse in the OVA Kids. Salim Bradley appears much earlier in this version and is more involved with the story, but we'll save that for later.
Mr. Armor called you brother. Does that mean you're Edward Elric, the Fullmetal Alchemist?
Yeah.
Oh, cool! You are a tiny alchemist, just like everyone says!
To shoot through other actors that could not return, Scar's nameless brother is now played by Robert McCollum instead of Bill Townsley. Mrs. Bradley is played by Dana Schultz instead of Ashley Gonzalez. Uri Rockbell is played by Joel McDonald instead of Daniel Katzek. And Dominic Lecoute is played by Greg Dulce instead of Matthew Tompkins. Some actors could not return for roles due to logistical reasons, making it more practical to replace them. One such actor, presumably, is Lauren Good, who played Gracia in the 2003 series. Good resides in Chicago, as stated previously, so her role is now played by Anastasia Munoz. The bigger replacement, though, is that of Hohenheim, or should I say, von Hohenheim. In the 2003 version, Hohenheim doesn't show up until the end of the series, but Brotherhood Hohenheim starts talking in episode 20 and is heavily involved with the plot. Scott McNeil lives all the way up in Canada. In a funny twist, the previous voice of Carl Haushofer, who worked with Hohenheim, is now the voice of Hohenheim, John Swayze. When he auditioned for the role, the staff behind the casting kept the role a secret, but Swayze caught on quick to this role being in Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Swayze did not want to emulate McNeil. Scott is Scott, and I'm me, he has said.
Something terrible is going to happen in this country soon. You should escape while you can. I've given you my warning.
And for some reason, despite still acting in the show as Sig Curtis, Bob Carter does not voice Brother Cray, one of Father Cornello's men. Instead, Cray is played by Charles Campbell. I know it's only for an episode, but I still thought it was worth mentioning. I swear this is the last quick character, but the miner Halling is voiced by Brett Weaver instead of Chris Roger. Instead, Roger voices Zampano, a pig something or other chimera, so a bigger role. On that note, some actors whose characters don't return received new roles for this anime. Well, to knock out one that counts as this and replacing an actor that didn't reprise his role, General Grumman, who was unnamed in the 2003 series, is played by Bill Flynn instead of Gordon Fox. Flynn played the placenta-infecting madman Mugiar in the 2003 series, a character that does not appear in this version. Kent Williams, previously voicing the one-and-done character Majihal, now is the voice of the main antagonist, Father, who also serves as the narrator just like the Japanese voice of the character.
This is indeed surprising.
When Williams went into quote-unquote audition, he was basically chosen for the role.
The life of an insect is so beneath you that it would be a waste of your time to even consider judging it. That would be an accurate summation on my feelings towards you humans.
Now Lucy Christian, on the other hand, voiced both the recurring character Wrath as well as the one-time characters Siren and Marin in the first version. They didn't leave her high and dry for this follow-up series, so who does Christian voice now?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked.
Lucy Christian is now the voice of the mysterious white figure seen when someone performs human transmutation, Truth. In the Japanese version, Truth is voiced by the character that attempted the taboo of human transmutation. Truth is perhaps a reference to a higher self or the world of forms seen in Platonic philosophy. There's a great video essay on that, by the way. But to reference Wrath being from the gate in the first series, Christian voices Truth.
Quiet, child. Is this what you wanted, isn't it? I will show you the truth.
Monica Rial is no longer tossing babies into the air and swapping bodies to stay with her beloved as Dante, or previously the kind maid Lyra, as she's now the cute Shingese girl Mei Chang. Still the main character, but much cuter and much less, well, cruel. Rial was worried she wouldn't be able to participate this time around, but was glad she got to be such a cute little badass.
All you have to do is understand how that power flows from where it enters and where it leaves. And then you can use it to affect just about anything.
R. Bruce Elliott's original character Boss Grant shows up for all of 20 seconds before dying in Brotherhood, but that's okay because Elliott plays Dr. Nox in this show. Coincidentally, Elliott and Dr. Nox's Japanese voice actor Kinryu Arimoto share a role, as they both voice Edward Newgate, also known as Whitebeard. Okay, this one is weird. Chris Patton still reprises his role of Greed, but you know what, let's save this one for later. A few quick ones. Justin Cook, previously voicing Russell Tringham, is now the Briggs engineer Neil. Phil Parsons is still the voice of General Hakuro, but is now also the voice of Captain Buccaneer, the man in Briggs with the crocodile arm automail. A mixed-race Ishvalan man named Miles is also part of the Briggs military ensemble. He's played by Jason Douglas, who voiced Rudolph Hess in The Conqueror of Shambhala. The other Jason, Jason Liebrecht, who I sometimes mix up with Jason Douglas, is General Carly in this version, previously voicing Alphonse Heydrich. And Leah Clark, previously the Roma lady Noah and the brief role of a young Breda, is now Vanessa and one-time boy Tetsu. I know this seems like a lot, but in the scope of Fullmetal Alchemist and how many characters there are, this isn't many. The vast majority of the cast returns for this dub, and that's impressive. The dub had one more director join the team, although Colin Clinkenbeard and Mike McFarlane were still the main directors, and McFarlane was even the line producer. The other ADR director this time around was Caitlin Glass, who is also the voice of Winry Rockbell. She directed the show for a handful of episodes, and then she got married and moved to Spain. More on that later. Some cast members expressed their concern of living up to the original show, which is still regarded as a great dub. But McFarlane never saw this project as living up to what they've already done. He looked at it as a project all its own. As actors and directors involved in the show have gained more experience, had more roles in other shows, and knew the FMA characters better since they already had one go-around, their performances have changed too. Mustang sounds a lot more confident in the FMA 2003 OVAs, and that voice carries to Brotherhood. Wendy Powell gives MB a raspier voice that has more growl to it. Colleen Clinkenbeard said her performances as Rose Thomas and Riza Hawkeye are more distinct in this dub. She also noted it was easier to reach that deep voice for Hawkeye thanks to voicing roles like a certain rubber pirate who has a gravelly voice. These are just a few examples, I could go on and on. So with that out of the way, let's look at some other general notes from the dub script before we wrap up. Some names have changed, often because there are official romanizations available, but some are just adaptational differences. This isn't everything, but it's a lot of the major ones. First, Ishbal and Ishbalans are now Ishval and Ishvalans. Greed's Chimera pals Law, Doroshe, and Marta are now Roa, Dulceto, and Martel. Denny Block is now Denny Brosh, and the Gate of Truth is now referred to as the Portal, although late into the series it was changed to the Gateway. References to these terms and characters will be these from here on out. Fullmetal veterans and newcomers, voice actors and directors, show their top work in Brotherhood, bringing their A-game to every single scene, from the hilarious moments
Ooh, sounds like the Colonel's scared of Big Bad Scar! I'm not surprised considering how useless you were against him!
to emotional situations.
You didn't! You
God, that moment in the dub still gives me chills. Funimation upped the sarcasm and punched up some lines here and there like in the first series too.
I see you've made a new group of friends.
We're not. It's more like we're all in the same sinking ship.
That's right. And I guess you could say I'm the captain of that ship.
But the dub isn't without its faults. Punching up the script led to a few oopsies. Brotherhood is a continuity-heavy anime, so one line changed in an episode may affect something that happens later, as it may be a line that is referred to later or foreshadows a plot point. We'll address these mistakes as we go, but despite mistakes, this dub is widely regarded as top-notch. It's one of those dubs you'll hear sub-purists say, "I hate dubs, except this one." And, just like the 03 version, it still is authentic to the Japanese version, so nothing wildly different. The dub premiered ahead of its scheduled Adult Swim debut at Katsucon in Maryland on February 12, 2010. Mike McFarland, Vic Mignogna, and Maxie Whitehead helped ring in the hotly anticipated dub of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood to a room that was packed to the gills. Look for yourself. And they didn't just show one episode, they showed 3. It was here that Maxie Whitehead discovered just how big and passionate the Fullmetal fanbase is. She said until then she was not concerned about recording, but after seeing this, she got a little bit nervous knowing there was such high expectations. But according to her, everyone at the con that weekend adored the performance. Brotherhood aired on Adult Swim before coming out on home video, debuting on the block at midnight Eastern Time on February 14th, 2010. Hey, that's Valentine's Day. FMAB had even more stringent airtime constraints than the original anime, as Adult Swim not only truncated the ending themes, but the openings too. And not only that, sometimes episodes would also have extra scenes following the credits that are important to the story. Adult Swim also had to cut these. For example, there is a post-credit scene where Father reabsorbs Gluttony in episode 28, so Gluttony is just gone if one was just watching that version. The first batch of episodes came out on DVD and Blu-ray on May 25th, 2010, 3 months after the Adult Swim launch. Of course, these feature no edits, only replacing the Japanese title cards, credits, and next episode previews with the English versions. Unlike the 2003 anime, which only gave about 4 episodes per DVD set, these new Brotherhood DVD or Blu-ray sets gave 13 episodes a set. Well, except the last one with 12. Talk about a deal. Okay, now let's get into specifics of the story. The problem is generalizing Brotherhood's plot is one of the hardest things I've had to do, as so much happens in the span of an episode. Trust me, I'd love to gush about how much I love this series, but I'm sticking to highlights relevant to the dub and the bare basics of what happens in the set. This plot moves rapidly and is full of amazing action sequences and plot revelations, so if I was to do what I did for the 2003 anime by summing it up, this video would be very long, so bear with me. Episode 1 is an anime original episode featuring a non-canon character named Isaac McDougal. Existing fans of FMA get to see some of their favorite characters return and hear their beautiful dub voices. For viewers that had no idea what FMA was, it's a bit jarring and a lot to take in at once. But still, it's cool to hear so many cast members back at it, plus hear the debut of Maxie Whitehead as Al.
So, it's not you?
No. I'm his younger brother, Alphonse.
But he's a runt.
Episodes 2 through 14 of Brotherhood are partially content already covered in the 2003 series and is, in my opinion, the most boring part of the series. When I rewatch it, I look forward to getting past these episodes. Okay, maybe I look forward to episode 13 and 14 because greed, but still. These episodes are still important to the plot as there are differences in the tone and results of many of these tales and the personalities of the characters in some cases. To highlight just a few, Ed meets Truth when performing human transmutation, which, as stated, is essentially God. The alchemy exam isn't nearly as stringent as the 2003 series, especially for plot reasons. Shao Tucker dies and stays dead. Greed has no connection to a woman named Dante as, well, she doesn't exist in this version, and Barry the Chopper doesn't have the backstory presented in the active story in Brotherhood. He was executed before the plot begins. Episodes 1 through 13 comprise the first part in this anime. The next 13 episodes are where the anime further diverges from the first version. Episodes 14 through 26 introduce a lot of new characters, locations, lore, and plot points. On the note of where this part begins, the original Fullmetal Alchemist took until its last episode to get as much as an extra content warning attached to it. How long did it take for Brotherhood to get a TV MA rating on Adult Swim? Episode 14, containing a violent fight between Fuhrer King Bradley, or should I say Wrath in this version instead of Pride, and Greed. Wrath mercilessly assaults Greed, and Greed can't regenerate limbs or heal wounds fast enough to keep up, resulting in a lot of bloodshed and dismemberment. And let's not forget the brutal murder of Mardal, which is more violent than in the 2003 series. Last but not least, Greed is melted into his Philosopher's Stone core and has these agonizing screams. Chris Patton was told there'd be no puking for this death, but it still would be difficult. Just listen to this.
That's what you want, Dad! Just don't blame me when I give you a stomachache! You did it to yourself!
This is only the first of a few episodes to get a TV MA rating. Brotherhood has a far larger cast than the first version, and episode 15 is where it really begins to show. We're introduced to some new characters from the far-off land of Xing. This episode introduces Mei Chang. As mentioned, she's voiced by Monica Rial, who is way more in her element in this role than with Lyra/Dante. From a rivaling clan of her country, the show introduces the 12th Crown Prince of Xing and hungry freeloader Ling Yao, performed by Todd Havercorn. Havercorn had never seen the first anime despite owning the whole thing plus the OVAs, but thought it was cool to finally be in the series. Well, he apparently got into FMA because he has even cosplayed as Ling. It's cool to see when actors cosplay their roles.
My name's Ling Yao. It's a pleasure. So, Ling, what else can you tell us about alchemy?
Nothing. Yeah, sorry, but I'm not actually an alchemist.
Ling's entourage includes Lanfan, voiced by Trina Nishimura, and Fu, voiced by Kenny Green. Nishimura was excited to be a named character, let alone such a badass one. And badass she is, as in just a few episodes, Lanfan cuts off her arm to lead King Bradley astray. Ling's group had one goal in mind, the Philosopher's Stone, in the hopes of gaining the means to immortality so they can curry favor to the Emperor of Xing. Ling is aiming for the Emperor's throne. And this is one of the best delivered lines in the dub.
So sorry, I don't understand much language of this country. Okay, bye-bye now!
The second episode to be rated TVMA on Adult Swim is episode 19, Death of the Undying, a particularly graphic episode. Havoc's new girlfriend turns out to be the lascivious homunculus Lust, and features one of the most relatable exchanges in the history of anime.
I can see how she tricked you so easily. You've always been a sucker for big boobs.
I can't help it! I love them!
But this has no bearing on the TVMA rating, or at least not as much as the other content. The battle with Lust is gruesome, with Lust stabbing both of them, Mustang carving a transmutation circle onto his hand and using a lighter to use his alchemy, and him torching the shit out of Lust.
You told me I couldn't kill you, but I'd like to try and prove you wrong! So let's see, how many times is it gonna take?
So that sums up why this episode is rated TVMA. It's in this portion of episodes in the dub, the English adaptation shoots itself in the foot, containing a continuity error in an otherwise solid script. When Al first reveals he has the little panda fighter Xiao Mei as a stowaway, Ed says this.
We're a little busy right now to be adopting panda bears, Al!
In the Japanese version, Ed says Al is always picking up stray cats, implying Ed thinks Xiao Mei is a cat. This sets up for a recurring theme in the later hunt for the little partner to Mei Chang. Nobody in Amestris has seen a panda before, so everyone says it's a weird looking cat, including Ed and Al. Well, hindsight's 2020. This set introduces homunculus lore in short order. Gluttony learns Mustang is the one that killed Lust, and the absolute unit of homunculus turns into this sleep paralysis demon. Gluttony pulls a Kirby and absorbs Ed, Ling, and Envy, leaving them in the endless void of Gluttony, who is actually a failed experiment to make a portal of truth. Envy reveals his true form, which is this giant green monster with faces sticking out of him. Jeez, this is some berserk level shit. King Bradley's backstory is he's an orphan who was put through rigorous training alongside many other candidates to become Father's Fury, his wrath. Again, freaky shit, I love it. Chris Bevins voices the younger incarnation of King Bradley in this segment. Episode 26, Reunion, is the third and last episode of the broadcast to be rated TVMA. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood went on a brief break on Adult Swim following this episode on August 8th, 2010. Just prior to this, Brotherhood aired its final episode in Japan, and an English subtitled version was available on July 8th, 2010. Mike McFarlane had the chance to see the final 2 episodes at Anime Expo that year. The convention was able to show the final episode ahead of the simulcast online. McFarlane remarked the reaction to the final scene was met with immense squeeing. Also around the break, Caitlin Glass already finished her dub work for Winry. Glass had moved to Spain, so she knocked out everything while visiting Texas for a convention before flying back. The dub team didn't want to recast Winry, so they wrote ahead for Glass to finish up her recording. She knew how the story ended before most of her co-workers, of course except for director Mike McFarlane as mentioned. Funimation continued releasing DVDs and Blu-rays of the series during the break, releasing Part 2 with episodes 14 through 26 on August 24th, 2010, and Part 3 with episodes 27 through 39 on December 28th, 2010. With the release of Part 3, the home video version was ahead of the broadcast by 12 episodes, so American fans that wanted to see the show dubbed didn't need to wait for the Adult Swim version to air that batch. The dub wouldn't finish recording until January 2011, almost half a year after Glass finished. And that same month is when episodes returned to the Adult Swim block, with episode 27, Interlude Party. Very fitting as it's a recap. The episode to follow is titled Father, and showcases the real mastermind behind everything. Father previously appeared during Greed's initial demise. He demonstrates his power by not only transmuting with no equivalent exchange, but also shutting down everyone's ability to use alchemy. Except Scar and May. Father makes a new homunculus by using Ling's body, similar to how he made Wrath from King Bradley. I mentioned how Chris Patton reprises Greed for his first appearance up until his death. Well, in episode 28...
Am I really supposed to use this little brat?
Greed makes a comeback, but unlike in Japanese where he is still voiced by Yuichi Nakamura, Greed is now voiced by Troy Baker, and it sounds like he finally got that laugh down. He eventually became Greed. He was Frank Archer in the first series.
Ah, you mean the guy I took this body from?
Sorry, but your friend just checked out and left Greed this body.
Okay, but we need to talk about this. As we see later in the story, Greed is Greed, as in the previous Greed. And while they could have easily played it off, there's this line by Beto in episode 44. Sorry, gonna jump ahead a bit.
The ultimate shield? And your voice sounds like, what the hell?
In the Japanese version, Beto points out Greed's pattern of speech, which is distinct, but the dub goes out of its way to say it's his voice when he is clearly recast. They could have easily brought up, like, I don't know, his mannerisms, his confidence, his pimpness, I don't know. That's always bothered me, but moving on. The episodes to follow reveal the conspiracy goes deeper than expected. One episode delves into the story behind the Ishvalan War of Extermination by compressing an entire manga volume into an episode. But hey, we see Kembley come back into the picture, a far different character from his 2003 counterpart, save for the splody bit, but still played by Eric Vale. This is a case where a performance changes not just from natural acting experience, but from necessity, as he is essentially an entirely different character in this version of the story.
Look straight at the people you kill. Don't take your eyes off them for a second. And don't ever forget them, because I promise that they won't forget you.
The brothers travel to the far-off mountainous region of Briggs in this leg of the series, and the anime introduces even more new faces. I already brought up Captain Buccaneer and Major Miles, so let's bring up their superior. Major, General, Olivier, Mira, Mother f***ing Armstrong, older sister of Major Alex Louise Armstrong. Olivier is voiced by Stephanie Young and is, yet again, someone that the staff had intended to cast. Young originally gave Olivier a sexy voice, as that's usually what Young does. Sexy is unbefitting of the character, and Mike McFarlane had to remind Young, less sexy, more tough. In fairness, one look at her and one may think, wow, she's pretty, but Olivier is a badass and doesn't take shit from anyone. And worth noting too is she did not fall victim to what happened to her younger brother's name. It is Olivier, just like the French name, not like Olivier. That cold, harsh voice is, in my opinion, one of Stephanie Young's best roles.
Don't patronize me, Alex. Your bloated muscles are worthless without a spine.
1 minute later.
Get out, loser. You'll stink up my mansion with your cowardice.
Around this time is the more formal introduction of this anime's version of Sloth. Instead of being Ed and Al's mom gone wrong, Brotherhood Sloth is a hulking beast that complains how everything is a pain. You know, befitting of his name.
Go dig a hole. How annoying. Really, what a pain.
This homunculus is voiced by Patrick Seitz. Believe it or not, this voice is not digitally altered. This is as low as Seitz can go for his vocal range. Don't believe it? Here's a clip from an interview on the Fullmetal podcast.
I want
What a pain.
Seitz said he got the role doing only 2 lines over the phone. He had finished doing the lines for the lazy homunculus by April of 2011. And as one very minor cameo, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn is this unnamed Briggs doctor. Yeah, I bet you didn't realize that. This is where things begin to come together as all the wars paired up with the shape of the country reveal Amestris is just one big plan to make a Philosopher's Stone. The anime has shown off every deadly sin so far, except pride. It was King Bradley in the 2003 anime, but he's a different one now. And there's been references and discussions with pride, and these creepy shadow figures have appeared multiple times. He must be a big scary monster or something. Riza drops off some documents for the Fuhrer, and aw, look at little Salim, isn't he a good boy?
He seems like a really sharp kid.
He certainly is. He's the pride of my life.
If you're like me when I saw this and had only seen the 2003 series where Salim's only appearance and purpose was to show up, unintentionally help Mustang in defeating the Fuhrer, and then get his neck snapped, you're just sitting there like, he's cute and totally not intimidated. Oh my god, what the hell is that?
You ask my name, it's Pride. And I was the first homunculus.
Salim Bradley is actually a homunculus.
It's always the one you least suspect.
So, yeah, he plays a much bigger role in the story than in the first anime.
Just remember, Lieutenant, no matter where you are, I will be watching you from the shadows.
Home Video Set 4 came out on April 5th, 2011, just 5 days before the Adult Swim broadcast of episode 40. Let's stop a moment and look at this episode. It's a flashback to when Father was merely a dwarf in a flask.
What's your name?
I'm number 23.
Not your number. I want you to tell me your real name.
I'm a slave. I don't have one.
Where have I heard this voice before? That's Aaron Dismuke. Mike McFarlane said he had plans for Dismuke, and here it is, a brief cameo as slave number 23, or as he would come to be known.
Well, how about Von? Von Hohenheim. How does that sound?
So Von Hohenheim, huh? I think I can remember that.
And the dwarf in the flask, later to be known as Father, is still voiced by Kent Williams. Originally, the staff looked at the possibility of another voice actor to perform the little one, but went with Kent Williams, using a vocal filter to give him a high-pitched voice. This is also what the Japanese staff did, have their father still be the dwarf. Dismuke was 18 at the time of recording and hadn't seen much of Brotherhood, so on the commentary track for this episode, he was a little bit lost. Thus, the Xerxes backstory is complete, showing the origin story of Father and Hohenheim. This episode is also where Mustang figures out
Salim Bradley is a homunculus.
this penultimate set was the final stage of the plan to counteract Father's plot to become God. Save for the whole Greed's voice thing, once again, hats off to the staff at Funimation for this batch of episodes. I think it's a good thing I don't have to point out or, heaven forbid, nitpick at anything. Sure, a few lines could have been done better, but overall, it is a solid set. Some other highlights in this part are Ed getting impaled and using himself as a Philosopher's Stone to mend the wound, Ed befriending the Chimeras Darius and Heinkel as they have a common enemy in Kimberly, Kimberly betraying the military to aid the homunculi and enemy nation Drachma to carve a crest of blood at Briggs, Envy's true form is revealed to be Mike Wazowski, Greed begins to regain his memories after murdering Beto, and confronts Wrath in another cool fight, and the Fuhrer's train car explodes and he's presumed dead. Oh look, Brittany Karbowski did get to be Alphonse. Kind of. Hohenheim traps Pride in a pillar of dirt after the rest of the gang struggles to do much damage. It's revealed the military has an army of mannequin soldiers ready to go. Mustang's troops begin invading Central, and the set concludes with one of my absolute favorite fights in the series, Alphonse fighting Pride and Kimberly. Whew! You see why I'm not doing an extended plot recap? This isn't even everything that happens. The final home video set released on August 2nd, 2011, containing the epic final episodes of Brotherhood. Adult Swim would begin to air episodes from the set a few weeks earlier, but for fans that wanted to see the end in dub format early, they would be able to do so ahead of its September 25th, 2011 air date. And this set starts off with Mustang finally discovering who killed Maze Hughes, and ferociously unleashes a fiery fury on the morphing murderer. Delightful performances from both Travis Willingham and Wendy Powell. You like death, bloodshed, and the plot wrapping up at a rapid pace? Yeah, this is that set. This is also where the dub backtracks on its use of the portal and reverts to using the gate. But again, not much else to note or criticize unless I want to nitpick really hard. In the last few episodes, there is a lot of death and bloodshed. Let's see. Sloth dies, this asshole dies and is eaten by Pride, Mustang goes blind in the process of being forced to face his truth, Fu dies, Buccaneer dies, the Fuhrer dies, Pride turns into his original form, a fetus with a nipple on its head. Almost everyone in Amestris dies, briefly before Hohenheim pulls an Uno reverse card. Greed dies in the ultimate act of bromance. Al sacrifices himself in the ultimate act of brotherhood. Sorry, I had to. Father is sucked into the place from whence he came, face to face with his truth in the process. Ed sacrifices his ability to perform alchemy and saves Al's body from the other side of the gate. And Hohenheim dies and rejoins his wife in the afterlife. In the final episode of Brotherhood, Mustang regains his sight, Havoc regains his ability to walk, Al's atrophied body slowly recovers, and the story skips ahead 2 years. Grumman is the Fuhrer, Salim is shown growing as a real boy, but with a nipple on his head, and as seen before, Ed regained his arm, but didn't regain his leg. But he certainly gained something more.
Equivalent exchange! I'll give half of my life to you if you give half of yours to me!
I really like what Maxie Whitehead does in this last episode for Alphonse. Al has a notably deeper voice than usual, given he's all grown up now, which Whitehead said was a bit of a challenge.
He's okay with it. He said that it serves as a nice reminder to keep him in line for the future.
The other challenging aspect was how she needed to ditch the security bowl and actually do flaps again. With this final episode being out in dub format, Brotherhood had a definitive conclusion. Sure, Arakawa could write about what happens past this, but for now, Ed and Al's adventures come to a close. Before we move on, I wanted to cover a special feature on the final home video set. The outtakes. Come on, you know I needed to bring this up. The final home video set of episodes contained various outtakes from episodes throughout the series. These bloopers included actors messing up their lines.
The homunculi refer to those unfortunate enough to have unfortunately unfolded the portal of happiness.
Playing off the animation.
So that was a #1 with tater tots and a jumbo Coke. Can I interest you in an apple pie today, sir?
Or just joking around.
Grandma wanted me to tell you she's making stew tonight! Yeah!
Brotherhood is an interesting case in terms of release compared to the 2003 anime. Unlike the first anime, Brotherhood was being released officially in the West in Japanese well before the dub, whereas the 2003 series didn't see an official Japanese language release in the West until the DVD sets came out, which also included the dub. Unless you wanted to view the fan subs of the 03 anime, you were stuck waiting on the DVDs, or, if you were a dub watcher only, the broadcast on Adult Swim. The late 2000s and early 2010s was the big kickoff of stream being a viable, widespread option. By the time Brotherhood's dub wrapped up, the show had already been over and available online legally for over a year. Heck, Mike McFarlane had seen the end of the show before the dub wrapped up. This all being said, there were no notable shifts in Adult Swim's ratings that were reported, nor any outstanding DVD/Blu-ray sales figures on file. And that's fine. Brotherhood didn't need any massive sales or ratings to prove its worth. And seeing as it was streaming already, many fans didn't have a need to go out and buy it on home video or watch it on Adult Swim. It just changes with the times. Unlike its 2003 counterpart, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood did not receive many special accolades or anything, in Japan or America. This is especially because when this came out in 2009 in Japan, it launched at the same time as a certain anime about cute high schoolers in a band, and everyone was gaga over that show. But none of that really mattered. Brotherhood in the West received high praise from critics and fans alike, ousting the 2003 anime thoroughly on anime aggregate sites. Forums were lively with discussion week to week when episodes dropped. For a long time, I'm talking years, FMAB stood at the top of the list on just about every site, but recently it's been contested by a show about attacking giants or something, I don't know. Regardless of where it is in the top 10, Brotherhood has stood the test of time. It's widely considered a must-watch anime by Western fans. Well, Brotherhood wasn't exactly the end of Fullmetal Alchemist, as there were 4 OVAs of Brotherhood too, that take place during the main story. These again feature the main voice cast, no recasts here, especially because these came out so soon. All of the OVAs are based on bonus chapters of the manga and are canon to the story, but you don't need to watch them to fully understand the plot. But to sum up each one in a few sentences, The Blind Alchemist is a pretty depressing story about a skilled alchemist named Judo who uses human transmutation to revive a dead girl, but in exchange lost his eyesight, so he doesn't realize his transmutation failed. Simple People shows the way Riza Hawkeye and Winry Rockbell have influenced each other, as Winry pierced her ears and Riza grew out her hair. The Tale of Teacher is, in my opinion, the best one, as it shows Izumi's training in the north at Briggs, something alluded to in the Briggs portion of the series, and shows how she met Sig. And Yet Another Man's Battlefield is a flashback of Mustang and Hughes' time in Ishval, including the sad reality that an Ishvalan friend they made had to become a target. Also on the set are a bunch of 4 Coma shorts. I don't think they're as funny as the ones Arakawa did in the manga, but I still recommend checking them out, especially when this exists.
Oh snap, snap, Spock, Spock, it's time to light up the diggy diggy dog.
Rappin' Roy Mustang, you don't need much more reason to watch these than that. Viz's manga release of FMA concluded later that year with volume 27 releasing on December 20th, 2011. Fans in North America could experience every iteration of Fullmetal Alchemist in full. The 2003 anime, Brotherhood, and the original manga. Speaking of the manga, I did want to mention there is a separate English translation of the manga by Singaporean company Twang Yi. They translated all 27 volumes, but this version is rare. But wait, there's more! This is not the end of Fullmetal Alchemist yet, as there was also a movie.
English Dub History. English Dub History.
It didn't take long for Fullmetal Alchemist content to continue, as right after Brotherhood ended, Bones announced a movie was coming, Fullmetal Alchemist, the Sacred Star of Milos. However, this isn't like Conqueror Shambhala, where that was a direct sequel to the events of the 2003 version. Instead, Sacred Star of Milos is like an extra story taking place during the events of the plot, so no need to have finished Brotherhood to watch this. The Elrics find themselves in pursuit of a fugitive alchemist named Melvin Voyager, who wrecked the shit out of this prison to make his escape. Melvin uses a unique form of alchemy using strange transmutation circles on his palms. Roy Mustang tells Ed and Al to investigate the neighboring country of Kreta to find this mysterious alchemist. It's in Kreta the brothers discover a group called the Milos, planning to rebel against the Kreta government. Among them is Julia, dead set on victory by any means necessary. The duo also discovers that these sacred stars they're planning to use are actually Philosopher's Stones. The movie debuted in Tokyo on May 2nd, 2011, and a wide general audience release across Japan on July 2nd, 2011. Now, when did it come out in America? A year later? 6 months later? 1 month later? Well, that last one is close, as it premiered subtitled at Otakon in Baltimore on July 30th, 2011, only 28 days after its general audience launch overseas. You see this video by YouTube user Patrick516? This is the line to see Sacred Star of Milos. Yeah, a lot of people. Said director Kazuya Murata about the American reception to the film's debut, "This was my first trip to America, and for me to premiere my movie here, and to see how much you were moved and how much you were excited, it gave me energy and moved me to the point to want to keep creating movies that you all can enjoy. I want to thank you very much." Funimation partnered with 11 Arts to give Sacred Star of Milos a theatrical showing in over 100 different movie theaters in the United States, both subbed and dubbed, on various dates between January 19th and February 4th, 2012. That's not all. The movie had a red carpet premiere in Los Angeles at the Downtown Independent Theater on January 20th, 2012, including a Q&A session with director Kazuya Murata, Bones president Masahiko Minami, ADR director Mike McFarland, and some members of the US cast like Vic Mignogna and Todd Haberkorn. Also present at the red carpet premiere were pop singer Alana Lee and rapper Soulja Boy. No, I'm not joking. This movie's dub features a special guest. Matthew Mercer plays Melvin Voyager. Mercer had never seen anything Fullmetal Alchemist related before being in this movie, but he said after he finished, he planned to see the entire series. He had fun with the character, especially his maniacal moments. And coming back to the FMA universe is Andrew Chandler, who voiced the train hijacker Balt in the 2003 series and Moody Nemda in the first video game. He plays the role of Raoul, or Alan, in this dub. So the Fullmetal Alchemist series comes to a close. The beloved franchise occasionally gets new side material, none bigger than the live-action movie. Hoo boy, I'd love to talk about it, but it goes beyond the scope of this video. It's not very good. It received a release on Netflix subtitled, but because it never received a dub, I'm going to leave it as a passing mention. What's that? It did receive a dub. No. I'm not covering the movie. No. No, you can't make me do this. No! No!
English dub history?
Yep, that's right. I'd love to rip this movie a new one, but let's focus on the dubbing. I'll try to make this quick. In May 2018, several months following the movie's debut on Netflix, there was a dub. Not by Funimation, but by Haste Digital in California. Uh-oh. So is this an entirely new cast for a bastardization of a franchise so beloved in the West? Well, not entirely so. Vic Mignogna reprises his role as Edward Elric, Caitlin Glass reprises her role as Winry Rockbell, and Aaron Dismuke reprises his role as Alphonse Elric. Aaron Dismuke reprises his role as Alphonse Elric? You mean the role he played when he was just a boy? That's actually pretty cool and fits well, seeing as he's voiced by an adult in the Japanese version too. And yes, it sounds far better than the Al voice he did in the one OVA, as he's just using his regular speaking voice. This dub script ignores a lot of Funimation's terminology and script, resulting in inconsistencies between versions. Some of these changes are objectively better as they reflect the Japanese version, such as using Riol instead of Lior, Riol being the correct romanization, but some names and terms by Funimation are disregarded. The performances are also completely different, barring the 3 returning Texas actors. To run through some of the actors, young Edward Elric is played by Christine De Los Santos, Gracia Hughes and young Alphonse Elric are played by Ryan Bartley, Roy Mustang is played by Steve Felon, Riza Hawkeye is played by Dana Powers, Maze Hughes is played by Matt Mountjoy, a hugely missed opportunity to cast Markiplier by the way. Lust is played by Caitlin Elizabeth, Envy is played by Brian Anderson, Gluttony is played by Mark Allen Jr., Father Cornello is played by Jameson Price, and Tim Marco is played by Paul St. Peter. If the Texas cast returned in full, and I'm sure they would have loved to, it may have made this film more tolerable, but unfortunately, the dub could not salvage this mediocre adaptation of Fullmetal Alchemist. Well, at least there's only one live-action movie to talk about. What the f*** do you mean they're making 2 more? Usually at this point in the video I ask, how did such and such series do in the West? But look, you and I both know the answer. Fullmetal Alchemist performed incredibly in the West. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, as already mentioned, stood at the top of aggregate anime list sites for years. The manga sits at the top 10 on most aggregate rating sites. Critics in the West all agree, whether they prefer the 2003 anime, Brotherhood, or the manga, this is one of the greatest series of all time. Funimation's push to make this anime succeed was met with great returns. Any iteration of FMA is often considered a gateway series into the wild world of anime. Fullmetal Alchemist means a lot of things to a lot of people. For actors, fans, and so many more, this series is life-changing. Voice actors that are now highly regarded, like Troy Baker and Travis Willingham, had their humble beginnings in Fullmetal Alchemist, and actors that had done previous roles but nothing on the scope of this series began to gain more recognition, like Aaron Dismuke and Caitlin Glass. In fact, Glass said had Winry not come along, she would have left the industry a long time ago. The series is held in high regard even today. The dubs of the 2003 anime, and especially Brotherhood, are regarded as some of the best dubs ever. Themes in this anime transcend borders. Fans see characters overcome their struggles in different ways. Some fans enjoy the view of humanity's best and worst elements. Some fans love the diversity of the cast. Some fans love how Arakawa and Mizujima in their respective versions subvert and explore tropes. It feels like there's a message for everyone somewhere in this fictional universe. FMA is, by a country mile, one of my favorite series of all time. I decided on doing this episode all the way back at like 200 subscribers. I know Fullmetal had an incredible amount of love and devotion put into it, from the original creator herself, to the staff members at Bones for believing in it enough to make 2 anime series about it, to the amazing staff at Funimation for giving it such attention in the West and creating stellar dubs, to even the folks at SDI Media when they did their dub. I wanted to pass that along in this storytelling. I'm a small YouTuber in a larger ecosystem of creators. I try to put my all into everything I make, and there's not much I could be prouder to make than a video documenting a comprehensive history of FMA's English versions. I feel like I put my soul into creating this. I feel like I'm paying it forward to Hiromu Arakawa and everyone that has ever worked on Fullmetal Alchemist. I'm taking all of the joy I've received from watching, reading, rewatching, rereading, discussing, writing, recording, re-recording, the list goes on. I'm taking all of that and putting something of myself in with it. It took hundreds of hours to complete both Fullmetal Alchemist videos I created, and now you, the viewers at home, might get something from this too. It's not equivalent exchange, but perhaps it's something more. Arakawa-sensei, if you are somehow watching this, thank you so much. And to everyone watching, whether you're new here or have been watching since Bob in a Bottle over 2 years ago, thank you too. I couldn't have made it this far without having whatever number it is now. At the time of writing, it's like 670 or so. Equivalent exchange is explored in every version of the story, and every version shows it as an incomplete theory. Gain requires sacrifice, but what you gain may be something different, something more. Arakawa ended her manga by quoting the beginning, but putting a positive spin on the quote. Perhaps this is the message that fans take away from the story once they reach the end of the Elric brothers' journey. Let's end the story of dubbing with the message the author left with fans. A lesson without pain is meaningless. For mankind cannot gain anything without sacrificing something. But once you've withstood that pain and overcome it, you will gain an irreplaceable full metal heart. If you want to watch Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, as of right now, it is available on Crunchyroll both in sub and dub, as well as Hulu and Funimation, for now. You can also buy it on DVD and Blu-ray. As for the 2003 anime, well, it's currently not available on any digital platform, but it was on Netflix in 2021. Otherwise, look around on sites like eBay or Amazon for either the original DVDs, the Viridian Collection, or the re-release on Blu-ray. The manga is available in full both in print and digital formats. As for the rare Chuang Yi version of the translation, look on the secondhand market. Fullmetal Alchemist is definitely a series worth revisiting again and again, no matter what version you prefer. It's still recommended, no, it's still required for anime fans to experience the series at least once. Stay tuned until the end as I'm announcing the next episode. Thank you for watching. Major thank yous go to Tierney Titus, the original voice of Alicia Hughes, for doing an interview with me, Kent Williams for some additional info at a convention, Muriel Hoffman, Lily Tronkale, Catherine Fu, Michael Pizzuto, and Gloria Ansel for info on the Animax dub, Brandon Murphy for providing the eye catch voice and next episode preview voice, Celeste Sumiki, CL Winter, Detailed Telly /Nintendo, Luyanda1216, Martin Wolfo twice, TC Doraemon, Zakwan5, PBS 4Gade, Dubs Furkin, and Chili the Dog for submitting their fan art shown throughout the video, and to you, my wonderful fans, for watching this series so far and being so patient. I've been working on this video since at least September of 2020. It took more hours than I can remember between research, writing, recording, and editing this behemoth of a project. Next time will be a smaller video while I continue to work on some of this year's episodes. Let me know in the comments, what did you think of the dubs of the Fullmetal Alchemist series? How did you first encounter this series? What else would you like to see me cover this year? Shout out to all of my supporters on Patreon and subscribers on Twitch, on screen now. Supporters on either platform got to see this video early, so if you'd like to see my stuff early, gain access to my exclusive Discord server, view exclusive videos, and have your name on screen here, please consider supporting. Until next time, take care.
After the longest episodes yet, The next series topic is one that gave Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood's popularity a run for its money in 2009. The host has decided to make a bold transition from an action series with bloodshed and death to an easygoing series with light music and cute girls doing cute things. Next time on English Dub History, Episode 18, K-On! Behind these adorable faces rests an intriguing story of dubbing.